These are some of the reasons why ranching won't work in Nigeria now. Somebody is saying from the northern part of the country, I know, is Mohammed Saliu Ahmad. He's a livestock expert and retired director in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. In his interview, the managing director of Space Age Continental Investment Limited suggested ways out of the crisis ravaging the livestock sector of Nigeria's economy. The issue of grazing routes and ranches has been on for some time now. Can you trace its origin in the history of livestock in our country? Before the colonial masters left, they envisaged that population growth of the country would create challenges in the livestock industry. So they initiated what they call the Grazing Reserve Development Program. At first, it was called the Fulani Development Initiative. In 1963, the northern government thought it wise to protect this program, so it converted forests to grazing reserves and enacted the 1963 Grazing Reserve Law. The law was later modified to incorporate some other things in 1965, thus the existing status in 1965. At that time, the northern government had authority over all the lands in the region, and to protect the grazing reserves under the law, they made it mandatory for every native authority to employ some personnel who would take care of the reserves and stock routes. In the grazing reserves, they were called grazing guards, while those of the stocks route were called stocks overseers. They were employed by the native authorities. Their role was to make sure that people did not encroach into the route, and they were natives of those areas who knew the location very well and protected it. After some time, most of them were phased out by natural retirement, death, and other circumstances. Unfortunately, all the tiers of government did not pay much attention to the livestock sector because majority of the budgetary allocation for agriculture would go to crop production. By the time these people were phasing out, replacement was not made and budgetary allocations were not made to cater for the needs and the set of people. Coupled with the population explosion over the years, people started encroaching into the stock routes and grazing reserves. A lot of the reserves, as at today, have been converted to other uses. Officially, there are 416 grazing reserves in the country, but in reality, they are not there. There are some grazing reserves that have been converted into university campuses, others into airports. It is gates. It is state government that did that. By the time we moved forward and states were created, a lot of issues relating livestock came up. When the 1978 Land Use Decree was enacted, it vested the power of handling lands matter under the state governors. Then politics came in. By 1979, we started having political patronage because the governors who have the right to allocate lands did it the way they wanted. As a result of that, a lot of them started encroaching into livestock routes. This was because the overseers that were supposed to protect them were not there. These routes were mapped out, gazetted, and already in existence. The unfortunate situation is that most often the local and state governments who are the custodians of the land and do not make efforts to see that people do not encroach in it. People will argue that there is no law that provides for the protection of the route, but it is there any law that provides for the highway in the country? Okay, that's the question. Are they gazetted or protected by any law? It is the government that decided where to float highway. Most of the routes gazetted in 1965 were mainly in the north. How can this be applied in southern Nigeria? So that's the question being asked and being interviewed, by the news agency to Ibrahim. So the question have been thrown to Ibrahim because the gazette were only meant for the north, while including south. The president has no control over lands in the country except the law that gave powers to state government and is also modified. Out of the 416 grazing reserves, two are in the southwestern part of the country. The reality is that if governors in the south were interested in having peace, it does not cost much. For instance, I met the Emir of Katsina in 2017 and we spoke on issues related to conflict and how it was aggravating. He said he made a rule in his emirate that nobody should cultivate on the right of way. He called his district heads, village heads, and others, and also told them that anyone who allowed farmers to cultivate along the right of way would be dethroned, and there was peace for that year. Jigawa State also tried that. This is a very simple thing. It is just the state or local governments that need to institute the law. Well, since the law or the power has been vested on state government or state governors, so they all have the right to decide either to ban open grazing or either to choose which route belongs to the Fulani or for cattle rearing. Well, if you are telling us that ranching will not be possible in Nigeria, that's a foul lie. Except you want to put people's heads together and start knocking each other. The basic truth is that since the Gazette have been encroached or by industries or by universities or schools, then they in that northern part of the country or wherever the cattle wants to move in out or open grazing wants to involve, let them give them a space to rear their cattle. And come to think of it, the northern has over 72% of landmass, even more than the south. If there is no agenda and really they are truthful to themselves, I mean the people in the north or the Buhari administration, they should stick to their north and deliver whatever result they want to bring out from their cattle rearing. Well, this is important because when you have a large herd of animals, their requirement for water is high. It will be very difficult to dig a well, especially in the upper Sahara, which is drying up, to give water to over 200 animals. Well, I believe that's an excuse from the pit of hell. Is an excuse because I believe it's a private business. Because I know the president and his cohort, they are the Fulani, people that wants to destroy the indigenous people of Nigeria, and that's why the agitation is so much, because his appointment is lopsided, one, and is in full support of the criminal act of the bandits, the herdsmen, the Boko Haram. Because if you tell me they are not the sponsors of those Boko Haram or the bandits, go and watch the interview on Arise TV with President Muhammadu Buhari. You will see what I am saying. Well, this is where I'm going to stop. I would like you to share your comment and don't forget to subscribe and share this news. Thanks for listening and God bless you.